Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so so we were discussing that the projects have triple constraint and we have got to take care of this. And if we don't take care of
Yeah.
this, that will result in the mismanagement of the project. So you know what happens, there is time overrun, cost overrun, then dissatisfied stakeholders. I mean our customer, clients and our associates, business associates, partners. And our the team members, those who are doing the work, they also feel very much demotivated because the results are not being achieved and there is loss of customer and money. So so that's
Yep.
why we need a formal project management methodology. So we should have formal project planning. So formal project planning means that it should be, I mean, almost like enterprise wide. All the organizations work which is to be done should be some sort of based upon certain process, right? So that should be
Mm-hmm.
formal, that we should have this process and we should implement this. Here we should plan the project, we should have an approval of the same, and then we'll do a review and cross-check with the constraints. So that is the part of the formal project planning. And once we have that in place, then what we need is effective monitoring and control. So monitoring and control would basically make sure that whatever we have planned is something which is working out properly as we are executing the plan. And then there could be additional elements of tools, techniques, and the methodologies. So that is the solution.
Yep.
So project management methodology is a collection of process, methods, and tools, and it provides a roadmap to manage the project effort and activities. It provides a checklist of
Yep.
key deliverables and activities. So let's go ahead. So the processes, they have inputs, tools, and technique. Now, have
Mm-hmm.
you say if you want to make tea, so what would be the input? If you want to make tea,
Uh, with tea.
yeah, if you want to make tea, so you would require tea leaf, right? So
Yeah.
you would
Yeah.
require
And hot
water to
water.
boil the tea leaf in. So you would
Yeah.
require water, you would require milk, you would require sugar. You know, we say that, okay, these are the inputs. Now, what are the tools?
Yeah.
Tools would be a teapot, tools would be a stove, tool would be a spoon,
Yeah.
tools would be a cup, and tool
Mm-hmm.
would be a strainer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then what is
Yeah.
the technique? The technique is like this. First you boil the tea leaf in the water, then you add some sugar,
Mm-hmm.
add some milk, and strain it through the
Mm-hmm.
strainer and pour it into the cup. So what you get as an
Yeah.
output? What you get as an output is something called beverage. Beverage is something we can drink.
Mm-hmm.
Can you directly consume
Yes.
tea leaf? No, we can't.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not something which is palatable or pleasurable. So what we can have is a tea beverage. So what is the beverage? Beverage is a finished product. It is an output. So
Yeah.
whenever we are doing tasks in projects, we apply processes. So processes, they have
Yeah.
inputs, tools and techniques, and they give us output. So these are the 5 process groups. So initiating authorizes the project. In planning, we plan
Yeah.
the course of action to achieve objective, right? So what needs to be
Yeah.
done, how much people we need, how much stuff we need, how much money is to be spent, and what is the sequence of the task. So that all happens under the planning. I believe that you are already exposed to all these things, and I believe that now a lot of things, they are falling in place for you. And in execution, we use the resources to carry out project tasks, and monitoring and controlling, we measure progress to identify variances. Now variances from what? Variances from the planned values. So if I say planned a task for 10 days, so basically by 5th day it should be 50% complete. So if on the 5th day I check a physical completion status, and if I find that it's not 50% complete, so what would I do? I would ask my team members, those who are working on this particular task, to speed up so that we can finish it within the planned time of
Yeah.
10 days. So that's a control. So monitoring is when you are comparing the actual values with the planned values, and controlling is when you are trying to bring down the actual values within the planned values by taking action. So that is called controlling. So that is monitoring and controlling. And then we come to the closing, which ensures structured project closure. So where we wrap up all our project area, we clean up the project the place, we give training to the end user, we hand over it to the production or the operations, okay, and
Yeah.
we do our closing documentations, We write down invoices to get the final milestone payment, and we make payments, closing payments to all vendors. So that's it. So this is the interaction between the process groups. So you have these process groups as the initiating, and when it goes in the forward direction and after its completion is over, so you have done the initial groundwork. So what do after the initiating? You start planning. So once you have planned, you start executing the work. So when you are executing something, so when you are doing the work, so you would be monitoring and controlling at the same time, so that your execution can happen within the plan. Sometimes from the execution we go to the planning, because if there is a change or addition in the scope of the project, we might need to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this thing goes on for a while, and once the execution is completed, means all the work is done, we go to the closing. So this is what it looks
Mm-hmm.
like. Now let's look at this graphic, and if you look at this carefully, you would realize that the area which is enclosed by the dotted lines is basically, it is enclosing the total cost of the project, total cost or the total
Mm-hmm.
money spent on a project. And it has been discovered, basically it really doesn't matter what kind of project you are doing. The nature of the projects, they are very similar. So almost like you can say that 70 to 72% of the money is spent in the execution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you make a
Yeah.
mistake here, say point number one, or if you make a mistake here, and if you make a mistake here, where do you think the mistake would be the costliest?
Um, the execution part. I mean,
Yeah, because by the time you reach here, you have already applied a lot of
yeah,
time and
resources or
lot of
time.
resources. Yeah, you have already spent. You must have created something physically. So here, even if you are
Yep.
wrong in the planning, you can do something on the drawing board. And if you have certain
Mm-hmm.
thought or an objective, you can change your thought, you can change your vision, and you can then
Yep.
document it differently. But once things go from the vision to the planning stage, it requires a lot many people to fix things. And when it goes from planning to the execution, so there are more number of people. Now they're applying the material, now they're applying their man hours. So, so this is
Mm-hmm.
something you got to keep it in mind. So this is something which sensitizes you to the fact that it's always better to basically have a very clear vision, a clear objective, okay, as
Yep.
compared to so that you have a very good planning. And then you should have a very good
Mm-hmm.
plan, a flawless plan, before you can execute something. So what is the idea? How do you reach there? So basically, the idea is to do a very detailed project requirement analysis. And if you look at the scope, so what is the scope? Scope is the total work to be done. Now, if the scope is very, very well determined and well estimated, we say the project is standing on a good foundation. So the project scope is basically the foundation of a project. It basically makes the project stable if it is stable. So when you are carrying out the work, there is minimal variation. So that is the moral of the story. So keep that in mind. So make sure that you are taking care of all kinds of variations in the beginning, not in the execution. If there is a variation, say in someone's thought, let that thought process take another day. So let that person write down the document very clearly regarding the objective of the project. And let the planner do the whole planning in details, down to the last nut and bolt, so that you have a very accurate execution. Because at the execution time, it's very costly to fix things. Okay, so this is the thing. Now the knowledge areas are
Yep.
explained like this. Integration management,
Mm-hmm.
it ensures integrity of all project management processes and activities in meeting the project's objectives. Scope management, it ensures
Yep.
project contains all the work required to meet the objectives. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yep.
Time management, to ensure the project is completed within time constraint. And
Mm-hmm.
this is the greatest constraint that every project has. Then cost management, to ensure the project can be completed within the approved budget, because every project has
Mm-hmm.
to be completed within a given cost, or else the project would not be profitable. Okay, so if you want the project to be good from the organization point of view, it should be profitable as well. So quality management, it ensures that the project meets the quality requirements of the stakeholders. Human resource management to organize, develop and manage the project team. Communications management, it ensures the management of project information from collection to disposition. And risk management, it to increase the probability and impact of opportunities and decrease the probability and impact of threats. So basically, what is the risk? Risk is an uncertain event which basically can deflect you from achieving the objective. So you don't want that to happen. So you want to ward off all the threats to the work which is being done in the project. So you got to plan for that. You got to make sure that you understand and you can mitigate those if they happen. And then procurement means getting all the stuff for the project from outside, like people, like services, like material. That is the procurement management. So you don't always have all the material or the resources within the project team. So you got to procure a lot of things from outside the project team. And stakeholder management, it is the process required to identify the people, groups or organizations impacted by the project. So, these are the 10 knowledge areas and you have got professional responsibility and ethics. And this is how they are tabulated. So as you can see here that the 5 process groups, they are on the top, they are in the column. Okay. And they have top down total. In the initiation, as you are saying 2, there are 2 processes, develop project charter and identify stakeholders. And in the planning, there are 24 as we are going down. So, the planning is then subdivided into 10 knowledge areas like integration, scope, time, cost, quality, human resources, communication, risk, procurement, and then finally stakeholder management. So there are 24 process in the planning group, and then execution has got 8, monitoring and controlling has got 11, and closing has got 2. So all they add up to 47. So if you add it up from the top to bottom, so they add up uh, towards the top. So 2, 24, 8, 8, 11, 2. And if you add it from left to right, so you can see that integration management has got 1, 2, 3, and 2, 5, and 2, 7, and 1, 8 processes. So scope has got 4 plus 2, 6 processes. Time management has got, you can see 7 processes. So you would notice that not all the knowledge areas, they have processes in all the process groups, but integration management is the one which has got processes in every process group, right? So just keep that in mind. So that's a special one. Okay. Now project management office. Do you have a PMO, project management office? So what does the project management of the office do? It facilitates accomplishment of strategic goals. It helps in the basically planning of the projects by the project management teams. It helps determine the training requirement. It helps coaching. It helps in mentoring. It helps in monitoring of the various projects which are happening. And it works by enhancing competencies of the organizational project management community and enhances the organizational project management maturity. So that is the PMO. Now PMO supports the project manager in various ways. It helps in sharing and optimizing resources between multiple projects. It helps in identifying and developing project management methodologies, best practices and standards, then coaching, mentoring, training and oversight, then monitoring compliance with project management standards and policies through project audits, coordinating communication across projects. PMOs create value through standardization, for example, by process, by system, by knowledge, retention, and consulting. So this is a sample PMO governance in any project. So this is for a software organization. So PMOs, they help in the project management by helping you with filling of the project initiation form. Then they provide you the project procedures. Then they will provide you in help in the project planning, then help you in the project status and project review documents and project sign-off to help you get the sign-offs. So these are the things that the PMO, they help you in. And in the design development, they might help you with system requirement specification, database design, In the change management, they help you with the change tracker, traceability metrics, and quality assurance. They can help you with the code review checklist, the defect report, etc. So this is the PMO governance. Now we come to the question and answers. So I am basically showing you certain sample questions. So basically these sample questions are the same that would appear in your exam. So you won't
Yeah.
get the same questions basically. So but you would get the same kind or same type of questions. So this is the format. The format is basically the question is mentioned and you will have four options to choose from. So you choose only one. Only one is selectable. The correct one is
Yeah.
the one. So that is based upon the PMI process. So one more thing, PMI is basically testing you for their knowledge of how much you have absorbed the PMI processes. It really doesn't matter that how much experience you have or how much general management skills you have. Basically, you would be
Yeah.
evaluated for the fact that you have learned the PMI process. Okay, now let me explain to you the first question. If you look at that, the project manager is making sure that the product. Okay, now what is a product? What is a product? So do you get a product at the
I
beginning
think
or at the end?
yeah.
Product is a sum total of all the deliverables, right? So can you get the product when you initiate the project?
No, I think you can monitoring or
Oh, so when you are
control.
planning, so when can you get a product when you are planning?
Uh,
No,
you
because you are still
no.
planning. You haven't done anything. You haven't made anything. Can you get the product when you are
Yeah.
doing monitoring and controlling? No, basically
Uh,
when you are monitoring and controlling, you
no.
are still having some work to yet to be completed. If some work is still happening, how can you get the product? So you rule this.
Oh, okay.
What the point? So if you are looking at the product, it means that you are in the closing process group. So what the project manager is doing, he is
Okay.
making sure that before he hands over the product to the client, he should have a last minute look at the product. So when he looks at the product, so which process group he is in, he has already, it means that he has crossed over the initiating, planning, monitoring, controlling, execution, and he is closing. He is going to close the project. So before he closes the project, he wants to make sure that it is coming up as per the plan, okay, to meet the
Yeah.
requirement of the customer. So he is in the closing. So okay, which of the following
Mm.
is an output of the initiating process group? So when you take the
Um,
initiating, so what do you get as an output?
project charter.
Yes, so now let me tell you what is a charter. Charter is a formal permission to do a project. Keep in mind. So why do you need this? Because you do not own the resources of the organization, right? If you want to use the people's time, if you want to use the equipment, if you want to use the material, so PMI says that you should have a formal permission to use the resources
Yeah.
of an organization to do the project. So the project top management should write a charter for you and then give it to you that these are the objectives and we want you to achieve this objective within this limit of cost and time, and we give you the permission to use it in this fashion. So that is the project charter. So the project charter is the output. Now we go to the next screen. Who is in control of the project during the project planning phase?
Project manager.
Yeah, just keep in mind project manager is the owner of the project and he is always in control, right? So you got it right. So a high level project schedule. Now it says high level. So where you are when it is high level? Are you in closing?
No.
Okay. Are you in monitoring and control?
No.
Because you are not high level. Are you in planning? It says just determined.
Uh, it should be initiating.
Absolutely. So you are thinking PMIs. Very good. So basically when you are doing planning, you have drilled down to the last nut and bolt. Keep in mind
Yep.
in planning.
Yep.
So initiating means that you are doing initial groundwork. So you're just talking to the various top level stakeholders. So they are just trying to, achieve something. They will be talking of the high level only. So suppose if
Yep.
they are talking about, say, solving the traffic congestion of a city. So they wouldn't be talking
Yep.
nuts and bolts. So they would be talking in terms of whether we should have more underpasses, whether we should have more flyovers, or whether we should add more trains into the already existing metro
Yep.
network. Okay. So, they would be initiating high level. Okay. So after the high
Yep.
level, what happens? You go to the low level. So which is planning. Right. So you got
Right.
it right. So you are going in the right direction. So, which is not characteristic of a project. What is not characteristic of a project?
Repetitive.
Repetitive, yes. So repetitive is the
Yep.
selectable answer. Projects, they create unique. Projects are temporary in nature. It creates a product.
Yep.
But projects are not
Yep.
repetitive because they are not
Yep.
operations. You are the project of
Yep.
XYZ consultant, project team members from finance and HR, team member report to finance and HR. So, this is something that you don't need. Basically, it's about the structure of the organization. This won't be part of the CAPM. So we are skipping
Okay.
this question. Okay, so
Yep.
which is not a knowledge area of the PMBOK. Did we have something like legal
Uh,
management?
no.
We didn't have. So this is the
Yep.
selectable answer. So this is not part of a
Yep.
knowledge
Yep.
area. So which of the following statement depicts a project? What looks like a project to you?
Mm-hmm.
Which one?
Um. Um. Troubleshooting server for a known issue.
So which one would be that? A, B, C, D? Which one is?
C.
And what about B?
Um.
See, the projects are not repetitive.
Yeah. I think because B is like depicting it and like operation or
If
like
you if,
something
if, if you if you look at the
happening.
troubleshooting, you could be doing troubleshooting every day. But
Yeah.
if you are doing this, upgrading finance application from Unix environment to Microsoft, uh, would
Yeah.
you do it every time? No, you would do it only once. So that is here you have an objective to achieve, right? So that is what is a project. Okay. So don't expect that all the answers would come right, turn right in the beginning. So you are learning,
Yeah.
so that's
Mm.
fine.
Yeah.
Now, if I talk about the process groups, I believe that these are very logical and you are already aware of this by your work
Yeah.
experience. So what would you do in the beginning? What would you do next? So in the beginning, you would be doing what?
Executing. B is the answer.
Yes, in the beginning, you would initiate, then you would plan, you would execute, then
Yeah.
of course, when you are executing, you would be monitoring and controlling and then finally closing the project. So that looks good.
Yeah.
So you are appointed team member in a project I, so you don't need this. So that's good. So that's
Mm-hmm.
about the CAPM thing. So, and
Mm-hmm.
now you remember all the 5 process group. Now what about the 10 knowledge areas? How you would sort it out? Okay, now let me tell you an interesting story. How to remember all the 10 knowledge areas. Like if I say integration management, scope management, cost management, time management, quality management, okay, then human resource management, communication management, risk management, procurement management, stakeholder. They are in a sequence and there are 10 of them. So now let me
Yeah.
tell you a little bit of an interesting story. The story goes like this, that you have been asked to cook chicken. Okay. Now your family member,
Yeah.
maybe your mother or maybe your husband, you have been told that how to make the chicken, but you have been given a top level instruction or top level caution that,
Mm-hmm.
see, when you are cooking the chicken, you have to continuously stir it. Okay, or else the gravy
Mm-hmm.
will stick to the pan. Okay, it will burn. So this is what you say to yourself. I stir the chicken quickly or help clean ruined pan. I stir the chicken
Mm-hmm.
quickly or help clean ruined pan. So can you please write it
Mm-hmm.
down in your notepad or something? This sentence, I stir. So
Yeah.
let me put this into the text box. Just see what I'm writing into the
Yeah.
text box. Do you see the sentence? So you can visualize yourself cooking the chicken and basically you remind yourself. I stir the chicken quickly or help clean ruined pan.
Yeah.
Okay, so you keep this sentence with you. Now if you look at the first letter, what is the first letter in this sentence? First word,
I.
I. So does it remind you of something? In the
Um.
knowledge area, which is on the left side, that is the rows, not the column. Column would be on the top, that is the initiating planning. So that you have
Ah.
already told, so that you all know about. Now I'm talking about the I
Yeah.
which is in the rows. So what is the first I which is in the rows?
Uh.
Management dash management. I management.
I.
Something which keeps the project uniform.
Uh. Um.
Integration, you remember? Integrity. I for
No.
integration. So now comes the next word. So S, does it remind you of something?
Um.
Does it remind you of a knowledge area management?
Uh.
S for
Strategy planning. Strategy.
S for scope. Scope, you know what is
Scope.
scope is the total work which to be done in the project. So scope
Yeah. Yeah.
management is something that you can remind yourself from the
Yeah.
letter S. Okay, I stir the chicken. So when you say the, so what is the first letter that you get? T.
Time.
Time management. Yes, very good. And
Yeah.
stir the chicken. Chicken gives you C. So what does C remind you of?
Cost.
Cost management. Yes, very good. Quickly. Quickly gives
Mm-hmm.
you Q. So what does Q remind you of?
Quality.
Quality. And or you can say that is a connecting word. You can ignore it. Then you go to the help.
Yeah.
Help is H. So what does H remind you of?
Um. H.
People. So what are people termed as in PMI's term?
Um.
What kind of resources are
Don't
people?
know. Uh.
It starts with H. It shouldn't be too difficult. Make a guess.
Mm,
People are also called
uh.
human.
Don't know.
No?
Okay. Yeah.
Human resources. So H reminds you of human resources management. And what else would you manage after that? Clean. Clean gives you the letter C. Once again C. So one C is the cost management, the other C is pertaining to
Um,
talking to people, writing to people,
Communication.
communications management. Yes, absolutely right. Ruined, R. Does it remind you of something? Something going bad?
Risk.
Risk. So
Risk.
you want to manage the risk on the project. And then
Yeah.
PAN. PAN gives you P. So what does P pertain to?
Pro-
To get stuff,
Procurement.
procurement. Now that makes 9. So there is the 10th one. So what's happening here? Just to visualize the story goes like this. I stir the chicken quickly or help clean ruined pan.
Yeah.
Then what happens? While you were cooking the chicken, you get a phone call. Okay, and you get busy with the phone call and suddenly you realize that you didn't stir the pan for long. Then you say, oh shit, you exclaim. Okay, you realize your
Yeah.
mistake. So that gives you S. So what do you do with that S? So what does
Stakeholder.
stakeholders? So stakeholders are the people, those who are impacted by the outcome of the project, those who are associated with the project. Okay, so your team members, your execution team members, your business associates, your vendors, your program manager, portfolio manager, your
Yeah.
sponsor, your client. So all these
Mm-hmm.
people, they are stakeholders because they are affected by the negative or positive outcome of the project, right? So stakeholder
Mm-hmm.
management is something that you also need to take care of as a project manager. So that reminds you of 10 knowledge areas. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the complete sentence would be like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that makes
Yeah.
it 10 knowledge areas. So I believe that it's not very difficult to remember this sentence because once this sentence is in place, so you can always pull up
Mm-hmm.
the knowledge area name from your memory, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great. So I hope you are enjoying it as well. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Very much.
so what comes next? Okay, you can read this cartoon later. So we come to the integrity, that is the integration management. So we'll move through this quickly. So basically, let me make sure that you understand the top level of it. It is to ensure that
Yeah.
various elements of a project are properly consolidated, coordinated, integrated to ensure the successful completion of the project. Now let me show you a graphic here. Now the graphic is like this. So if you want to do a project, so basically you got to understand that what is the expectation of the stakeholder, what are their needs, and what you got to do for achieving their satisfaction. So these are the people.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are able to meet the people directly. Suppose if you are a consultant, if I'm doing a software, I got the opportunity to meet people. But suppose if you're solving a problem in a city, then you come up with a solution that a particular crossing should be replaced with a flyover. So you cannot talk to all the people, but definitely you would like to do a survey. So you need to know what is the stakeholder needs and expectations. So basically, once you have determined the stakeholder needs and expectations, so you have a very good idea what needs to be done. So what needs to be done is nothing but work. So what is the work in a project? Scope management, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you have a
Yeah.
well-defined scope, can you have a very well-defined estimate of time from the scope? Can you?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I know all each and every task in my project. So I would be in a
Mm-hmm.
very good position to determine the estimate of time. Now, if you can determine the estimate of time and you have very well defined this work to be done in the project, can you estimate the cost of the project?
Uh. Yeah.
Yeah, because you would know how much resources are to be applied, and the cost is nothing but the cost of applying the resources on a project, isn't it? So you would
Yeah.
have very good idea of the cost management, and if you have very good scope, time and cost management, don't you think you would be able to achieve the quality of the project? Quality.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you would be
Achievement.
able to
Yeah.
achieve the quality of the project.
Yeah.
So that would be the core function. Now, these are called the core function. I say I want to do the scope, time, cost, and quality management. And these are the
Yeah.
core functions. And basically, to do these functionalities, I need the help from human resource. I need people. I need to communicate with all my stakeholders. I need to minimize my uncertain events like risk, which can hamper my project work. So I do risk management. I need to procure stuff for the project, for the raw material, for the people. Okay, I need to procure. And for the people, those who are stakeholder part of the project, so I need to manage them too. So, these are the two sides of the project. So they are held together by what is called the integration management. So that's where the integration management fits in. Now I'm going to ask you a question here. Just look at this very carefully. Suppose if I say, for example, the client cuts down on the time. Okay, initially the client said that you can do this project in 6 months. Then
Yeah.
he says that you will have to finish the project in 5 months. So where else do you think will be the impact?
So the time management.
Yeah, if the time is reduced from 6 months to 5 months, will it have an impact on the cost?
Yeah, cost and also quality.
Will it have an impact on the risk?
The resource, I mean, human resource management.
Will it have an impact on the human resources?
Yeah.
I might need more people if I have to do the whole work. And will it have an impact on the
Yeah.
scope?
Yeah.
Now, there are two possibilities. One is that I get more people to do the work. So definitely I can keep the scope as same, but my cost might go up. But suppose if the client says, no, I have reduced the time, but I will not increase the amount of money. So then what happens? I might have to cut down on the scope. Why? Because I cannot do all the work in the given time. So
Yeah.
I can basically prioritize. Okay. So that what is to be done. So all these things, they have an impact on each other. If there is an impact on
Yeah.
cost, there is an impact on the rest of the knowledge area. So who keeps it integral? That is integration management. So this is what is all about integration management. Now, in every organization, there are organization process assets. And what is an asset? Assets are, say, your plans, policies, procedures, guidelines. Now let me explain to you. Do you know Coke's formula? How to make the Coke, which is the most, one of the most popular drink, Coca-Cola. Is it there on the internet? Can you Google it out?
No.
No, you can't, because it's an asset. Why it is an asset?
Yeah.
Because it helps them create the value, that is the stuff for which people would be willing to pay money, okay, to drink it. So that is an organization process asset. So similarly, every organization has a process which is called an asset, which creates the products and gets something done within the organization. So these are plans, policies, procedure, guidelines, process assets also include organization knowledge bases such as lesson learned and historical information. Like if there is a project team which made a mistake, so they would put it into the lessons learned. So once they put it into the lessons learned, then what happens? The future teams, they get better, isn't it? Future team, they won't repeat the mistakes. Okay. Now, what is an environmental factor? Enterprise environmental factor. It's like this. Suppose if your organization is using Excel to do the scheduling, and there is another organization which is using a project management software. So where do you think the project has a greater chances of being successful, being finished on time?
Um, the environment or the resources they have.
Yes. So basically, the environmental factor which has been created by an organization by providing any kind of resources which enhances or improves or which smoothens out the project work is called an environment factor. So that could be the organizational culture, structure, infrastructure, existing resources, commercial databases, market conditions, or project management software. So, all these, they add up to the success of the project. So these are called the environmental factors. Now, what is commercial databases? For example, if you want to do the estimation, say you are working in a construction company, you want to do an estimation of the task, how much resources or material does it require. Now, there could be certain databases which are commercially available, which can basically take the task list and they can provide you the estimate of the materials because these are determined internationally. So, these are called the environmental factors. They help the project. Now, in every project, the information flows in three ways. Now, look at this. First is the data, then it becomes
Mm-hmm.
information, then it becomes a report. Now, let me explain this
Yeah.
to you that what is the meaning of data. Suppose if you take the temperature of a person, okay, so the reading comes on the thermometer. So you would spell out a figure. Suppose if you spell out, say, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. Now, when you say 100 degrees, so what is it? 100.
Oh, sorry, is that
It's a
something
data.
wrong with it?
It's a data. Now, when does it become in information? When you interpret it. So, what is your interpretation of
No.
100 degree Fahrenheit body temperature?
I
Is
mean, I can see anything from the screen.
Yeah, I've just removed it for a while, so you don't have to look at the screen. You just have to. Uh,
Alright.
j- okay, okay. I'll just show you the screen in a while, so it will make more sense to you. So, at this point, just tell me that what is your interpretation of the 100 degrees Fahrenheit? If a person is having 100 degrees Fahrenheit body temperature, is it normal or is the person sick?
Sick.
Yes, this is information. Do you get the point? So when I say
Yeah, yeah,
100 degree, it is a figure in number. Now it doesn't
yeah.
mean anything to a lot of people if they do not understand medicine. Now since you know
Yeah.
that the normal body temperature of a person is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, if it is more than that,
Seconds. Yeah.
so the person is sick.
Yeah.
So that is information. Now what comes
Mm-hmm.
next after the information comes the report. So you take this person to the doctor examines further and he writes down a prescription and he writes down a certain do's and don'ts for the person. So what is that? So that is the report. So report is detailed analysis of the data. Now what is data? So data is the figures. Now what is the
Right.
information? Information is the interpretation. Like in a project, we have start date, finish date. We have number of change requests, number of defects. Now, these are just figures. They don't mean anything unless we have something to compare against. When I compare the actual start date against a actual plan date, okay, then I get a variance and when I interpret the variance and I get the status. So which I say, okay, the task is on time, the task is late, the task is earlier. Okay. So that is the information. So when I write down status reports, memos, justification, information notes, so
Right.
that becomes report. So make sure that you understand
Yeah.
data, information and report. So data is something which is figures, information is something you just interpret the status, and report is something when you
Yeah.
detail out something. Right. So that's it. I hope you are seeing these three words in a new way. I hope this is interesting.
Yeah.
Data,
Yeah.
information and report. Okay, I believe that now you
Sure.
can use these words better. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Now in the integration, this is how the processes they are divided. So which you have already seen in the table. So in the
Mm-hmm.
initiating we have these processes: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling. In monitoring control project work, perform integrated change control. Now I would like to draw your attention to this one. the one that I circled. When you are monitoring and controlling project work, what does it mean? It means that you are comparing the actual work done. Now, when you are actually doing the work, three data points are generated. What are they? Actual time taken, actual cost taken, and actual work effort. So when you do this, so you get certain data points. Now, how to con how to compare? So basically, you compare it against the planned time, the time which you had planned originally to do the task within a certain time period, and then you compare it with the planned cost. Then you compare it with the planned what? Work effort. Right. So that is monitor and control project work. Now, when you perform integrated change control, so basically you know what is happening. If you find something going out of the way in any of the knowledge area, you also look for any impact on the rest of the knowledge area and you document it. So that is about perform integrated change control. If there is any integrity to be taken care of, so you do this process, and in the closing you close the project or the phase, right? So closing the project or a phase means that in bigger projects, so say long-term projects, say 5-year project, 6-year project, we chop up the project into very bigger pieces which we call as phase, and we make sure that each of the phase is having all the processes applied so that we get a proper output. So once we get a proper output, so you know this output is passed on as an input to the next phase. But when we are doing some small project, so if I am doing a 1-year project or 2-year project, I would directly close the project itself. And in a multi-phase project, I would close the phase so that the phase is basically providing a proper output which can be used as an input for the next phase of the project, right? So that's what is the closing about. Okay. Now, this is the project charter. So basically, the development of project charter is the formal authorization of existence of a project. Now, keep in mind one thing. When the project is in someone's mind, it's a concept. It's not a project. You understand? The project is in someone's mind. It's a concept. When the project is formally authorized via a document, so that is the project. So there is a difference between a concept and a project. So that is according to the PMI. If there is a formal permission given to achieve an objective, so you have a right. And it provides the project manager with the authority to apply organizational resources to project activities. So authority is very important because the project manager is not the business owner. So he needs an authority to use the resources. So the organization might be having hundreds of equipments, hundreds of people, those who are working at the execution level, lot of materials lying around. So you need an authorization from the top business owners. So okay, this is what I want you to achieve and these are the authorization rights. You have to use the resources. So once you have this right, so where do you get this? So you get this in a charter. So that is the utility of a charter. Now these are the ways to develop the project charter, so which is not required in case of the CAPM. So in CAPM what you need to know that before initiating a project, you need to understand the need and demand of a project, you need to do feasibility study, and you got to select a project. Now why do we do this thing? Now let me tell you one thing. Say, are you working in a consulting organization or you are doing your own projects, internal projects?
External project.
Okay, so you are doing the project basically upon the request of a client. Is that correct? Okay, now let me tell you. For example, I'm working in a software company. Okay, and a client comes to me and client says, look, I want you to make an e-commerce shopping website for me. Now, you know, the client would basically do a feasibility study. Is it feasible for him to sell? What is the need of the e-commerce? What is the demand of the items to be sold through the e-commerce platform? So you would, he would do a lot of, process to make sure that this project is profitable. And on top of that, he comes to me. I make sure that the project is profitable for me also. But for me, his objective is not my objective. So what is the objective of the client? To sell.
Um,
To sell.
to tell, yeah.
To sell through the e-commerce. But is that my objective? No. What is my objective?
To finish the website. To finish
Yeah.
the website.
Yes, to create the website and profitably. But
Yep.
if the website is handed over to the client, whether the client makes a profit or a loss, will that be your or my concern? No, not at all. We are not concerned. So what needs to be done beforehand before you undertake a successful project. So you need to do a feasibility study. So feasibility study will ensure that the project is profitable. Right? You got to do this. So if you are going to do your own project, suppose if you are a product-based company, suppose if you want to make a new model of a mobile phone. So won't you look at need and demand? Isn't it? Or would you make a mobile phone just out of whims and fancies? Don't you think that you would be doing some sort of research to look at the need and demand for a particular feature or a particular configuration of a mobile phone? No?
No.
Yes, you would. You wouldn't make a mobile phone if it is not feasible to sell it in the market because you are doing your own
Okay.
project. Okay, suppose if you are a good media and entertainment company, now you have got the choices of 2-3 projects, whether you should start a water resort, water park, or a 5-star hotel, or a 5-screen theater. So don't you think that you would look at the need and demand? Isn't it? So you would basically select the project which is most profitable, where your return on interest is guaranteed, where your investment is safe. Okay, so where you can recover your investment in the minimum or the shortest possible time. Wouldn't you do it? So that is the exercise that you would be doing before a project. So have you heard of expert judgment? What is an expert judgment?
Not yet.
Expert judgment is basically, when you have experience. So when you have experience, you have a lot of understanding about how a work is to be done, how it is to be done right. Okay, so that puts you in a position to determine things to make them go in the right direction. So where does the expert judgment is taken? By the team. See, team member have expert judgment of their own, project manager plus team. And if you want, you can have expert judgment from the senior management of the company. And then if you wish, you can have expert judgment from an appropriate unit within the organization. And if you wish, you can have uh, expert judgment from the project stakeholders, including the customers, and you can have expert judgment from the consultants, right? And who else can give you an expert judgment? Industry groups, subject matter experts can give you an expert judgment, and project management office can also give you an expert judgment. Okay, so basically you would make sure that if you are going to undertake a project, so that should be a successful one, right? So expert judgment basically comes from your experience, your knowledge, your qualification, your domain expertise. All those things put together gives you an ability to judge the things right, to do the things right, to plan the things right, and to estimate the things right. So you know, that is what is termed as an expert judgment. Okay. So you need expert judgment in selecting the project. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So just keep in mind this term and what does it mean? And then you are also going to measure the benefits. That if you have got to do a selection between a choice between two or multiple projects, so you got to measure the benefits. So which is more beneficial? So you would do things like you would look at compare project for their benefits, that which is more beneficial, whether I should launch a mobile phone or I should launch a laptop. So this is called comparative approach. It involves scoring based upon cost. So basically you would put more score to a project where the cost is less and the risk is less. And murder boards are basically doing research on the projects to make sure that the projects are feasible ones. So that once started, so you wouldn't need to stop them midway. So that is the murder board, and where you have pros and cons of the project discussed and compared, and you settle with something that works. And then you have payback period. So payback period means that what is the minimum time in which your initial investment would be returned to you. Then cost benefit analysis basically tells you that how much money you would invest and what is the benefit that you would have. Okay. Like I would do a cost benefit analysis on the city transport. So I have the options. One option is that
Yeah.
I go for the metro. One option is that I go for tram system. One option is that I make lots of flyovers. Another option is that I have, say, some sort of, monorail system. Okay, so you know, there is a cost and there is a benefit. So then I look at the one where the cost is the least and the benefit is the most. So I would do cost benefit analysis. Then there are scoring models there. I would apply scores, and net present value tells the value of money, tomorrow's money in today's term. Then there is internal rate of return, which tells you that what is the year on year return from the business as you are investing the initial principal into the and return into the business, and then the business returns you more money and you put it back into the business expands to give you more returns. So you know that adds up. So that is called the internal rate of return. So that is the benefit measurement model. And mathematical model, it involves mathematical formulas to predict success rate, and this is also called constraint optimization. So you just got to keep this in mind, not to worry too much, and you don't need this here. So you got to understand what is there in the project charter. In the project charter, there is high level objective and summary
Yeah.
milestone schedule and project durations and summary budget. So basically, you know, if you are going to give the project manager something to achieve, so you got to tell him that what is the achievement after doing this project and what are the milestones. So do you understand milestones? Have you heard of the milestones?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yes. So why do you have
Yes.
milestones in a project?
I'm sorry. You are asking why or what?
Yeah, what is that? Why do you think
Um,
there are milestones in a project?
because you have to check whether the progress is going alright, or make sure that we deliver the correct project outcomes or goals of the project.
Okay. Now let me
We,
explain
we
this to
keep
you
track
with a small
on.
little, yeah. Yeah, you are nearly there. Let me make it even much more clearer. See, the milestone is like
Mm-hmm.
this. Suppose a client comes to you and he wants you to build a shopping mall. You are a construction company and you are the CEO of the construction company, and client says, look, can you build a shopping mall for me? Okay. So then what would you say? You would say, okay, fine. Yes, I can do it. Tell me the details of it. He says, look, the shopping mall is to have 5 stories, and these are the features, and this is the area to be covered, and this is all that I want in this. Okay. Now, what do you do?
Um,
What do you do? You give an estimate. You You tell him that it's going to cost you, say, $500 million. And
Yeah.
he says, fine. So he says, when you are going to start, you tell him that when you make an upfront payment of $500 million, I can start the work. What you said? $500 million upfront. Now, do you think it
Mm-hmm.
will be acceptable to the client to pay you $500 million upfront before starting the project?
No.
No. Yes, absolutely right. Now, let me ask you another question. Now, what does the client say to you that why don't you do the entire project and then I will pay you at the end? So, what would be your answer? Yes or no?
No.
No. Now tell me that how to do business.
You can pay according to the project milestone. I mean
Yes.
all deliverables.
Yes. Now, what is the milestone? Well, let me tell you how, and this is how you and your client agree. You basically agree that let us divide the payment into 5 parts because there are 5 deliverables. So what are the 5 deliverables? So they are listed like this. The first deliverable is the ground floor. The second deliverable is the first floor. The third deliverable is the second floor. The fourth deliverable is the third floor, and the fifth deliverable is the fourth floor. So you have got 5 deliverables, right? So once you have the 5 deliverables, so basically you link the chopped up payments with that. You say that, okay, when I deliver you the ground floor, you pay me $100 million. But how do you sign up the
Mm-hmm.
project? You say that out of this first $100 million, give me $20 million as a down payment so that I can be sure that you want me to do something for you. You want to take my services. Client says, okay, fine, I will give you $20 million as a down payment. Okay, so you take this $20 million and you become sure that the client wants your services and you start resource mobilization. So once you have started the resource mobilization, then what happens? That you do the work and finish it on time. So every milestone has a agreed upon time and deliverable. It's not about the entire project. Even within the project, you have time constraints at milestones. So he says, I want the ground floor within the next 6 months. You say fine. So you put a date on that. So when you deliver him the complete ground floor with acceptance, so he pays you the balance $80 million. So that adds up to $100 million of the first payment. So that is the milestone. So the major milestones, they are linked to the deliverable. Okay, keep that in mind. And these are mentioned in the project agreements that are signed up with the clients. This is a normal thing.
Yeah.
And project manager should be aware of this thing, and it is mentioned in the charter so that he is basically aware of it and he can take care of it. So summary, milestone, schedule and project duties. So what is the schedule? So when you use the word schedule, it means that a date, right? Some date is involved. Summary budget means the top level budget, then high level risk if known, that what can affect the project, what can ail the project during the project execution. Then
Mm-hmm.
security criteria or metrics. So what is the criteria for security and I mean the success criteria? What is success criteria? Now the thing is that when you are building something, you got to evaluate that what is the functional level. Okay, now the functional level is something which you can predetermine. What is the success criteria of the pulse polio project? If a country is undertaking this project, what is the success criteria? The success criteria is that after a period of time or a predetermined period of time, no child should be found having the polio virus. Okay, so that is the success criteria. So you can set a success criteria for your project also, which will be mentioned in the charter document. Then who are the key decision
Yeah.
makers, those who signed up the project, and
Yeah.
then who is the assigned project manager and what is the authority level of the project manager. Can he use the resources up to this point, up to this value? So that is the authority level. and name and responsibility of the person authorizing the charter. Those who are going to authorize the charter, what are their names and responsibilities, so that in the future the project manager can have a clear decision. Now, why do you need this in the charter? Now see this, say down the line a senior management person comes to you and he wants you to change something in the project. So would you do it? No, you wouldn't do it. So what would you do? You will look at your charter. If his name is not included in the key stakeholder, that is the decision maker, you wouldn't do any change. You would politely say, sir, can you please go and meet any or one of these people?
Yeah.
Okay, these are the key decision makers. Can you please go and meet them and ask them for any change in the project? Okay, so these are the key decision makers. So that is why we have the name of the key stakeholders included as part of the charter, so that no other person can come in and make the changes in the project. What the point?
Yep.
So now we go to the next, we develop the project management plan. Basically, it's a plan which is encompassing the entire knowledge area. So, it lists all the work to be done in each of the knowledge areas, one by one, and which is necessary to define, integrate, and coordinate all subsidiary plans. Now, what does the project management plan do? It keeps the project management team focused on the work of the project to be done in details. But in details, it tells the details. See, if I want to do the time management, so I got to plan it out, that how time will be estimated, how time will be measured, how the timesheet will be captured, what kind of software will be used, what kind of algorithm will be used for the time estimation, who are the people responsible, what are the rules and regulations in maintaining the time status of the project. Okay, so all this will go into the project management plan. Like in the project management plan, there will be a section within the document, say cost management. So you would describe in the beginning how the
Yeah.
cost will be calculated, what will be the estimation, what are the sources of cost estimation data, what are the rules, regulations, procedures, standards which are applicable on the estimation of the cost, and what are the roles and responsibilities of various people involved in cost estimation. No, then what is the benefit of this PMP document? The benefit of the PMP document is that it serves as a guidance throughout the project. Now, just imagine this. So imagine that the project is 6 year long. Okay. After third year, the project manager changes. Do you think there should be change in the project?
Yeah, maybe changing the scope.
No. If the project manager changes, will there be change in the scope? No, not at all. The project will continue on its original scope. But how will it happen? First of all, the project manager to project manager, knowledge transfer will happen, and then what?
So you mean it's gonna be like still carrying on the project?
Yeah. So basically, the project will have a very long time, say 6 years, 7 years. So a lot of people will come into the project. A lot of people will come and leave the project. See, now let me explain to you with a small little example. Suppose if you're doing a software project, now there is a role. This role is called the quality tester. Would you bring in this guy in the beginning? Quality tester. You are into the initiating phase of the project. Will you bring in this guy?
Um, yeah.
But what will he test if he comes in the beginning? Nothing much. So you plan that this guy will come in the middle of the project when he has something to test and look at. Something to look at and test. So, okay, in the software, do you take the software UI designer in the beginning or at the end? User interface designer.
user interface.
Yeah, tell me. User interface designer would be taken in the beginning. So once the interfaces are designed, they are handed over to the development team, and the user interface designer leaves the team. So it's not of much usefully for him to continue being part of the team, so he can move on to another project. Right. So, different people will come and different people will join the project. They will work on the project for some time, and they will leave the project. Now, do you think because of people coming and going, there should be unnecessary changes in the project?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Project should change. There should be change in scope. Do you think that if people come and join the project, new set of people, there should be change in objective or scope of the project?
It really depends on what people are leaving the team.
See, whatever people are leaving the team, they are replaceable with exactly the same skill and experience. But do you think that the project should change?
So you mean it shouldn't be changed?
They shouldn't change basically, because the project's objective is enshrined in the charter. So it really doesn't matter. If the same sort of people, if they leave the project, okay, midway, that shouldn't mean that the project is out of control. How do you keep the project in control? Basically ensuring uniformity. How do you ensure uniformity? By writing a project management plan. So every person who comes and joins the project team, he would go through this plan. He will look at what has been planned in the time management, what has been planned in the cost management, what has been planned in the quality management, what standards, rules, regulations, procedure have been adopted in this project. So throughout the project, many people will come and they will leave the project, but the project would remain constant. It will constantly move on towards its goal, that is the achievement of the objective as listed or as enshrined in the charter. Isn't it a good thing that despite changing of the people, the objective of the project should be achieved? Right or wrong? Yes. Yes, now I believe that you have got the point. So that's why we need this project management plan document. So this document helps all the people remain focused. So who makes this document? The initial project manager. He makes this document along with the initial set of the team members, and he continues to update maybe very little during the course of the project. If there are any major changes, so there will be major update. Otherwise it remains constant. It continues to guide the team throughout the project life cycle. So isn't it wonderful if at the end of the 6th year the project manager changes in the middle, but the objective is still achieved? Isn't it good? Isn't it desirable? Yes. So that's why we need the project management plan document. Okay, because the organization is now process based, not people based. But if it is a people based organization, then what happens? If a person leaves, so the project fails because the key person has left. So the next person doesn't know what to do, where to start from, okay, where to take over from. So that can have a failure of the project. So that's why we need project management plan. So these are the input tool and technique. You can go through it in the slide. I'll share the slide with you right now after this, after the timing. So components of the project management plan are project scope management. So you define how the scope will be defined, what documentation standards will be used, how it will be changed, okay, who are the people authorized to change it if it is needed to be changed, how do we keep the scope stable, okay, then schedule management plan, how we estimate the time, cost management plan would tell that how the money will be managed, how the cost will be kept within the budget, and quality would be maintained. All these would be described in the project management plan. So staffing, staffing management plan. Do you think that the project has a maximum number of people at all the times? No. When the project has maximum number of people? When it is in the execution phase, isn't it? So where people are doing the work which has been planned out. So you would use the maximum number of resources there. Right. So that the staffing management plan would tell that. Okay. Communication management plan would tell that which stakeholder needs what kind of communication. Someone requires a meeting, someone requires a fax, someone requires an email report. Okay, then we have stakeholder management plan, that how do we manage the people. Then risk management plan tells us how the risk will be managed. And then the procurement management plan tells us the procurement. Okay, then this milestone list tells us that what are the milestones in the project. Resource calendar tells us that what resources are coming in at which dates. Right, so resource calendar would tell us that when is the user interface designer joining and till how many days this person is working, and when this person is leaving the project after completing the project work. When is the data or the tester joining, till what time is the tester remaining. Okay, and then we come to the schedule, cost and quality baseline. So what is the baseline? Baseline is something that we compare against. So there are three things which we are ready to compare against. What are they? Time, cost, quality, work effort. So this should be also documented so that when we are doing the work, so we can compare and make sure that we are going as per the plan. If we have nothing to compare against, we just can't transact. So there are baselines in this world. Like if I say 1 meter, so 1 meter is the same for you and for me, isn't it? The length of 1 meter. So how many centimeters does 1 meter have?
100.
100. So that's your part of the world. In my part of the world, it is 100. And how many millimeter does a 1 meter have?
10.
1000. Yes.
1 meter.
Yeah, within
1000.
1000. Yeah, right. So we understand the same thing. So because of the same baselines. So where is this baseline? Okay. So this baseline is basically maintained in some laboratory. So the original 1 meter which was devised, or it was cut up in 1870, it's been kept in a laboratory in a controlled temperature and moisture condition, right? So all the scales which have been built, so they were measured up against this original 1 meter, they were cut up and they were sent back. That okay, we have cut your tool by this vernier caliper, and basically you will be maintaining this 1 meter of length. So that is a baseline. So if I say 1 liter, would it be different from yours? No, it won't be. It would mean the same volume of liquid, right? So there is a baseline to compare against. Like if I say the time. So people say GMT time instead of telling their standard time. So what is GMT? So it is a baseline. It is a baseline of a time. So if I say right now the GMT time in India is this much, so it won't be very difficult for you to understand that what is the time that I'm talking about. Okay, so we have baseline. So similarly, who makes the baseline for a project? Who makes the baseline for a project?
The project manager or the authority?
Yes, the project manager and his team of people, those who plan or those who help in planning the project. Yes, you got it right. You got to do this in the beginning. So how do you do it? You collect the requirement. First you start with a very clear objective. Then you do a detailed requirement analysis. You document it. Then you get it cross-checked, vetted and signed by the client or the end user. Right? Then what do you do next? You define the work to be done. based upon the requirement, that what we need to do to meet this requirement, and then you cross check it with every team member. When every team member agrees, you create the estimates of time, you create good estimates of cost, and you create good.
Yeah.
So what do you create good baseline, right? So then you have risk register. Change and configuration management plan basically tells that who is authorized to change it, because if you put this document up on a, say, a portal, okay, where all team members can see it, and suppose there are team members spread across various geographical locations, and for them it is a single point of truth. So if a particular standard is mentioned, so everybody will use it, isn't it? So everybody will do the work in the same uniform fashion. So that uniform fashion could be right or it could be wrong, because they are looking at the I mean the PMP document. So don't you think that you should safeguard this document? If someone comes and he just enters into the document and he changes it, since it is a single point of truth, it can cause problem. Now, if it is changed without any authorization and the rest of the people would believe the change, now what is the risk here?
Mm-hmm.
The risk here is that the project work will go wrong. So you would like to first cross check
Yeah.
that if this changes is to be done. So are these changes valid? Are these changes required? Are these changes authorized? So if yes, only
Yeah.
then make these changes. So that's what the configuration management plan is all about. Okay. So you make sure that if you want to make any changes, it happens according to a set pattern. It is authorized. It is clean. It is
Mm-hmm.
risk-free. It is something which is acceptable to all. It is something which will help or assist in achievement of the project goal and objective and not distract. Okay, so that's why we put this configuration management plan, because this document is the sole crucial single point of truth, and if there is any change to it, it can lead to absolutely right things or absolutely wrong things also. So that's why. So what we do next, we do the direct and manage project execution. So we are moving from left to right. If you look at your process, I mean within the knowledge area, so direct and
Yeah.
manage project execution. So what do we do here? So the whole team comes together, they look at the plan, they look at the task, and they do the task one by one, one by one. So what happens when you do the task? When you do the actions, so what do you get? You get the deliverables. So what do we do in the project execution? We perform the activities to accomplish project requirements. So what is the requirement? That is the objective. Suppose if I am to build a software, so I would be building the module by module. So what is module? Module is a deliverable. I hope now you understand the difference and relation between deliverable and product. The product is the whole
Yeah.
thing and the deliverable is part of the product. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we give the work to each team member, we assign the work and we ask them to do the work, and this way we create the deliverable. And during the project execution we staff, we train. Staff means taking in people, we train the people, we manage the team members, we get, manage and use resources, all types of men, material and cost. We implement the planned standards and methods, we establish and manage project communication channels, we generate project data, status and forecasting. We issue change requests and adapt approved changes into the project scope, plans and environment. We manage risk and implement risk response activities. So we are doing all these things. We are making sure that we are achieving the goal. We manage sellers and
Yeah.
suppliers. We collect and document the lessons learned, because when we are doing the work, that's where we do the things right or wrong, isn't it? When we are doing the project work. Now suppose if you do something right, it's fine, it will be documented. But suppose if you do something wrong, would you like it to be repeated for rest of the project or in the future?
Um,
Would you like a mistake to be repeated for the rest of the project duration or in the future projects within your organization? What would be your answer? Yes or no?
Yeah.
No, your answer should be no. You don't want the mistake to be repeated. So what do you do? How do you prevent the future teams from making a mistake?
Keep track. No, should be learned from the previous experience.
Yes, so
Lesson learned,
yeah,
document some historical information.
yes, the lesson learned would put down certain things. You would say that, look, we were trying to do this in this project, and this is how we went about and we made a mistake, and then you would write that what is the antidote, what you shouldn't be doing. So, this way it improves. It improves the future project work which is done in this organization. So, a lesson learned is very important. So that's what you do in direct and manage project execution process. So what do you get as an output? Deliverable. That is the first thing that you get. And along with the deliverable, you get work information. So work information like what is the actual time taken, what is the actual cost, what is the actual work effort, are you on time, are you on budget, are you on the work effort, and the work performance information is used for monitoring and controlling the process group. Why do you need to monitor and control? Because if you don't do it, then what will happen? You would have time overrun, you would have cost overrun, and you would have work effort overrun, and still not be able to create something which is considered as quality. It would not meet the expectation of the end user or the client. Do you think it is a desirable thing? Yes or no? Not achieving the quality expectations of the client or the end user. Would you like that to happen in your project?
No.
Okay, tell me what's your current project and what is the immediate deliverable scheduled? What's your current project about?
Sorry, can project. Sorry, I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
What is the objective of the project?
That would be the scope or the client requirements.
No, you are working on a project currently.
Yeah.
So what is the project about? What is the objective? Can you describe it in, say, 3-4 sentences? That, okay, this is what I'm doing on the project and this is what we plan to achieve after completing all the work.
I'm a bit lost.
Yeah, tell me. What do you think you will achieve in your current project?
You mean the objective of
objective, yeah, objective of the project. Are you building a software? Are you building a product, or what exactly you are doing right now?
Selling the products and services.
Pardon? You are creating a product.
I want to sell the product to the customer on the market.
Okay, so are you running a marketing campaign right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So would you like your marketing campaign to be successful?
I can sell as much as I can as a product and getting more people to know about the new product.
Yes, so that's fine. So that's really very good. So you know your deliverables. So this is what you get, your deliverables. So when you are directing and managing the project execution. So make sure that you know your deliverables. Make sure that you know the actual time, actual cost, and actual work effort, and you are comparing them with the planned values. So you need to compare them with the planned values so that you can control it. If you don't control it, then what will happen? The project will be having time overrun, cost overrun. So that will be a problem. You don't want that. So what we do here, that we put the approved corrective actions, we put the approved preventive actions, we put the approved defect repair. So suppose if you're doing something and you find something has been produced defectively. So there is some defect. So what do? So you fix it. You make sure that you create something that is acceptable to the client. The client won't accept any kind of defective products. Okay, so we all know that. So that's what we do in direct and manage project work execution. Okay, so these are the inputs, tool and techniques and outputs which you can read, and these are the process inputs, describe, tool and technique, output, and make sure that you know your outputs. Outputs are what? First of all, the deliverables. Now, when I talk about deliverables, now deliverables are of two kinds, tangible, you see this, and intangible deliverables. Now, what is the difference? Suppose if you made a software system, do you think that the software system delivered to the client without any kind of use training and user training would be much useful?
Tangible.
Do you think a software would be useful without training? So suppose if you constructed a building for a client and you hand over the building without any kind of diagram or any kind of layout of electrical, plumbing, sanitation, do you think the client would be able to maintain the building or manage the building without this diagrams or layout? Will it be possible?
Uh, no.
No. So you know what you are giving along with the main deliverable is called the intangible deliverable. So when you are providing training to the people to use the software, you are providing intangible deliverable. Okay, when you are buying a mobile phone, suppose if you bought a mobile phone and you open the package but you don't get the manual, do you think that you would be able to use the mobile phone to all its full value and the full features without the manual, without the user manual? Will the mobile phone be 100% useful to you? Maybe you can use it, but maybe but not 100%. You wouldn't know that what are the finer points of this. So you know what is that manual? Manual is the intangible deliverable. What is the deliverable? The deliverable is the phone itself. So you got to understand this fact that in your project, so when you are doing the project work, so you should be aware of what are the intangible deliverables of your project. And you should be taking care of these things in the beginning, so that you know that this is tangible, this is intangible, so that when they are produced, so they are produced in a synchronized fashion and you can deliver both of them to the client. Right. So make sure that you know and use this information in your current project as well, so that you get better, because you know what is the purpose of this training. So the purpose of this training is to make you better as a project manager, make you better as a project team member. If you are not the project manager, never mind, but still you can understand a lot of things that a project manager already knows about. So when you work closely with the project manager, you can work better, you can understand better, you can give a better response, and you can also manage a lot of things at your own end. Slowly and slowly you will grow into a project manager's role within your current organization. So when you are in a project manager's role, so you would be able to use the information already gained here. Some of it might still be retained. So when you do the project work, so you should make sure that Any kind of the project work is basically having a tangible and intangible deliverable, and make sure that
Yeah.
both of them are delivered to the client so that the client gets the maximum value and he can appreciate the quality of the work done. Right.
Yeah.
So you should look at the work and you should provide the information to monitoring and control so that you can take a corrective action and preventive action. Now, what is the difference between corrective and preventive action? If you find a defect, so what would a corrective action do and what would a preventive action do?
To fix the corrective would be fixing the defect, and the preventive would be like see how we can like prevent the defects happen again.
Yes, so that is fine. So make sure that when you see a problem, you fix it. So that is corrective. But you don't want it to be repeated. That is preventive. Got the point? Why would you prevent? So that you don't waste time and money. But because if a problem is happening again and again, and if you're correcting it each time, so which is good. But each time you are correcting, don't you think you are utilizing time and resource? So wouldn't it be
Yes.
better that if you can prevent it? So you have to take corrective action immediately, and you have to also think in terms of how I can prevent a repeat of this pattern of mistake. Right? So that is what you do in direct and managed project work. And in monitor and control project work, you basically look at what is happening in the execution, and you look at the actual time taken, you look at the actual cost, you look at the actual work, and you compare it with the planned time, planned cost, planned work, and you manage variances. Variances are the differences which can occur during the work, and if the variances are not controlled, if they are let go loose, they can cause time overrun, cost overrun, and dissatisfaction in the stakeholder. They can cause a project loss, which no project manager wants. So basically that's what we are doing project management for. Because we want to achieve the objective within optimal time and cost. Right? Isn't it a fact? Because if we have time and cost to overrun and we create something. Now, due
Yeah.
to delayed delivery, the client might say, no, I don't want it now. I don't need it. You are delayed. But suppose if we put something on time, but we use a lot of resources to do it and waste resources, and we don't make much profit, do you think it will be good for the organization?
No.
It will not be. So that's why we need project management. So that is the importance of the project management. So we need to manage the variances. So can we do one thing? Can we take a 10 minutes break and be back and continue with the discussion?
You want to continue? You want to continue?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, can we take a 10 minutes break and be back?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. I mean, what's the time your end? Is it too late in the evening? It's in Indian Standard Time.
Yeah. I got to like leave within like 15 minutes.
Oh, you got to
Cause
leave in
it's
15 minutes. Okay. So,
yeah, cause it's around like 6:30 now.
okay, okay. You are nearly 6:30 now. Okay, got it. So
Yeah.
right now it is 3:53 p.m. So 3:53 p.m. So it is 1 and a so you are like 2 hours ahead or 2.5 hours ahead. 2.5
Yeah.
hours ahead. So it's like 4 p.m. Okay, so let's go ahead. Have another 10 minutes so we can close it. Now, this monitor
Yep.
and
Sure.
control project work is something that a project manager should be doing proactively. Now, it is the most crucial part of the project management where the people mostly, I mean, those who start project management, they get responsibilities of the project. They do not understand in the beginning. In the beginning, you know what happens. We say, look, I have planned it well. Nothing can go wrong. But a good planning doesn't make a project successful. What makes it successful is that we take the project by the horn. You know what do you mean? What I'm meaning when I say take the project by the horn? Have you seen cowboys
Uh, yeah.
riding on top of the bulls? You know, sometimes what happens,
Yeah.
if the bull is very strong, it just flips down the cowboy. But if the cowboy is good at his job, he stays on the top of the bull.
Yeah.
Is it? So just imagine that the bull is your project and you are the cowboy, or you are the cowgirl. So you want to stay on top of the project. You want to be in control. So how you can be?
Yeah.
By using this process, monitor and control project work. Now, what three
Yeah.
parameters would you be looking at when you want to monitor and control your project work? Do you remember there are three parameters of a project health? What are they? Time,
Cost,
cost,
time, work effort.
work effort. That is the man hours that you're utilizing.
Yeah.
If you have these three well planned and you have something to compare against, you take the actual values, compare, and you manage the variance. Okay, you tell your team, look guys, you speed up your work. Do you need any equipment? I am shifting, you're swapping the roles. You know, this is what a project manager does on a day-to-day basis. He looks at the plan and if things are going out of the plan, so he corrects it. He puts it on a course correction. Just like if a pilot is, say, flying a plane. Now, during the flight, a pilot can put the plane on the autopilot, but he continues to monitor it. But suppose if the autopilot goes out of the track, so what the pilot will do? He will take a corrective action. He will put it back onto the predetermined path. So, you know, this is what a project manager does when he is doing monitoring and control of the project work. Does it sound right and does it sound appropriate to do?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you doing it right now, monitoring and controlling your project work?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Are you using any kind of software to do it or you are using by some other means?
Just some like tools or documents to
Okay.
keep track on the project progress.
So how do you do it? Are you using Excel or something like that to keep track of each
Yeah,
of the
Excel
planned?
also. Yeah. Yeah.
Excel. So
Or
you
project or Office Microsoft projects.
okay, you are using Microsoft Project. That's good, 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 good. So you are aware of it. So you know that is an excellent project management tool, and basically when you have planned it, I believe that you must have
Mm-hmm.
created a baseline of the project plan,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would be putting in the actual values of the task as they are being performed by the various team members, and you would be able to get a analysis which will be done by the software. You have to just take the decisions that where you have to
Yeah.
speed up which task, where you have to apply more resources, where you have to look into some sort of troubleshooting. So that would be monitor and control project work. Okay. So what do you need monitoring? It means collecting, measuring and distributing performance information and assessing the measurement, and keep in mind monitoring is done throughout the project. You cannot have monitoring in the beginning or randomly. It is to be done continuously each and every day. And controlling means
Yeah.
determining corrective or preventive actions. So first of all, you will correct something. If you find something wrong, then you would think, can this mistake repeat again? Can this problem repeat again? If yes, so let's fix it. So that is a preventive action. And you might need to even replan something if you find that something is out of the plan. Okay, and you would look at any kind of impact on the time, cost, quality, human resource, procurement, if that is there, and you take care of that. And you would follow up on the actions to find out that if you change something, did it have a beneficial action on the project or not? Beneficial effect means that has the project come back within the planned values or not? Am I still going to finish it on time as per this task plan? I'm going to finish it within the budget of this task. Am I going to finish it within the work effort of this task? So, you know, that would be the
Mm-hmm.
result of a good controlling, right? So I hope you are getting a good picture about the project management, right? Okay. So I believe that it's time for you to leave, and I believe that it might be very crowded. Okay.
Yeah.
So we all live in mega cities these days, and I understand that you have to leave a little bit early so that you can beat the traffic. Okay. So
All
be
right. Thank
sure.
you so much.
Okay, so thank you very much.